we're coming back from Salt Lake and on the backside of the mountains and near Morgan. It's beautiful. And on some of the steep cliffs on that backside there, I see a bear. I think, oh, this is the crew will love to see that. I always want to, help the crew see something cool because they've been busy with the patient. And so I said, oh,
Yeah,
guys, you got
they're
to see
so
this.
focused right here. Yeah.
Right. And we don't have the patient with us anymore. Patient has dropped off, so we're making the 90-minute slog back to Idaho. And so I fly back around, do a 360, and come back around. Guys, you got to see this bear because it's way up on the cliffside, the mountainside, and it's big, huge, dark bear. So I'm thinking, this is great. They're going to love this. And fly back around, only to see that it's a cow that has made its way all the way up the mountainside. So deflating. It would have been a better bear story if it was.
It would have been if it had been a real bear, right?
Yeah.
But
Now,
it
anytime we
was
see
a
cows, it's Marshall. Look, bears.
Look at all the bear down there. Welcome to Double Helix, where everything is connected. Hey there, awesome viewers and listeners. I'm your host, Mark Merritt, and on this show, we're going to dive into the fascinating web of connections that shape our health and our lives. From our physical and psychological well-being to our emotional and spiritual growth. We'll explore how these connections, whether they're with the people around us or in intricate networks within ourselves, all the way down to our DNA, and how that can transform our lives for the better. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a thumbs up for episodes that resonate with you. Let's get connected. Well, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us again. Thank you and welcome to Double Helix. It's the podcast that focuses on the importance of our connections, whether they're spiritual, emotional, mental, or psychological, social connections, and the direct impact those have on our overall health and well-being. Today, I'm excited. We've got Marshall Murdock with us, and Marshall is a long time friend of mine. We were just joking around a couple minutes ago. I think I met Marshall just after the last ice age, somewhere in there in that portion.
And I said, what do you call them, the old?
No, I am, because we had to point out a little bit of the gray going on this right here. So,
Yeah, it
and
happens.
so we're very excited to have Marshall. Marshall and I met, oh my gosh, 30 some odd years ago.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
So the reason, having Marshall on, Marshall's one of those, it's that our segment of catching up with friends. But we've got Marshall and I have some very interesting, similar likes and dislikes over the years. And it's not just because that's what makes us friends. Marshall works in emergency services. He is a life flight pilot. And every now and then, Marshall, to be honest with you, I look overhead as I know you live about 2 hours north of me as you're heading south and you're flying. And, I look up and go, wait, is that one of, no, that's a local, right? And sometimes Marshall needs to transport from the Idaho Falls area down to Salt Lake. Is that correct?
Quite often. Yeah, we do that quite a bit. We'll have to put your house in our route so we make sure at 3, 4 a.m. to buzz your house every time. I'll make a point of that.
Make a point of that. Yeah, I'm let's see, I live over in Bear Lake.
No. Well, you're lucky. It's a little out of the way.
It's a little, no. No, that was, when you say that, it reminds me of when I was a kid, and I don't know if you know this, but my dad was a helicopter instructor for the Army. And so my dad did 2 tours of helicopter flying in Vietnam. And so when I was little, we were in either I think it was Fort Rucker, Alabama, and then I spent time in Fort Benning, Georgia, and Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which is where all a lot of helicopter stuff goes on. But when I was little, and one of my earliest memories, Dad got accepted to the University of Utah while he was still in. They had a narrow window, if I remember correctly, of letting officers. They'd send officers back to college. So Dad got to the University of Utah We lived in Bountiful, Utah at the time. And how cool was it to be a 3-4-year-old kid and your dad flies over the top of the house waving at you outside of a Huey? We were the cool kids in the neighborhood at that point.
That's right. The envy of all the other kids. It's my only claim to cool that I have is Dad's a helicopter pilot.
And that's a pretty cool thing. I've got to spend a little bit of time up in helicopters as a wildland firefighter, and always loved that. Some fun stories about being in helicopters with the old Vietnam vet pilots.
Yeah,
That's a different mentality.
yeah. That's really who populated the workforce for EMS for a long time because there were so many that came back from Vietnam, wanted to keep flying, had their military pension, and so they made up a good majority of the EMS pilots. And over the years, that's adjusted and changed, and it's maybe 50-50 or even less now. But,
Maybe less now as those are retiring.
mhm.
Along those lines. Yeah, my dad retired quite a few years ago. He hasn't flown for a hadn't flown for a long time. But when I say retiring, that's what comes to my mind is he's probably, most of those are going to be retiring. We're probably getting a lot of the Gulf War guys in.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, they're not flying as much as they did in the military. It's the first question I get asked every time we land for a scene on the highway, in the forest. So, you fly in the military? And I didn't. And so I got tired of answering no. I'm a civilian trained pilot, which is fine, and that works too. So instead, I just started telling everyone I learned on Microsoft Flight Simulator and Xbox, and then I don't smile, and they laugh like I'm joking, and I still don't smile, and they go, "Really? Wait, what?" Yeah. Yeah, when I started
That's like
flying,
that
I
movie.
told, go ahead.
That's like that movie about the IndyCar race guy. Did you ever see that movie? It was a couple years ago where it was, I can't remember, it wasn't Indy cars. It was, but it was that Formula One race cars.
Hmm.
And there was actually it was based off of a true story about how some race car team were trying to find new drivers and they went to the gaming community and they found some people that were gaming and they put these guys in these Formula One race cars.
What could go wrong? Yeah, what could possibly
Yeah.
go wrong? Yeah, when I started flying, I called all the branches of the military because I'd rather let Uncle Sam spend $1 million training you than spend your own money. But I was already too old at that point, so we did the midlife career change.
Yeah, and that's right. You did the big shift. That was a definite different thing to do. You ended up flying in Vegas for a while, right?
Yeah, flew tours as part of building hours, and it's kind of the path. Be a flight instructor and then go fly tours or Gulf of Mexico or free hauling Alaska somewhere until somebody's willing to give you a commercial job. They figure if you haven't screwed up by then enough that you might actually know what you're doing. So get a couple thousand hours piloting command and then went over to EMS. So that was always my goal.
Yeah, and then if I remember, and then you flew out in the Midwest for a while,
Iowa,
and then you got the
yeah,
joy of moving back to the West.
back to the Rockies. That's right.
That's right.
That's right. A lot of people that want to fly that are looking at becoming a pilot, they'll always ask, "Oh, well, I want to fly here or there." And in the beginning, it's you're going to go where the work is and where you can get the work. And then after 5, 6, 7, 8 years, you gotta come home. There's something that'll be close enough to home. Maybe you don't have to commute forever, which is which
Yeah,
is better.
yeah. We were sure happy to get back to the Rockies when we came back from the Midwest, and but so I keep having this story stick in my mind from when I was wildland, and it happened in Idaho, and I was actually up in the Sawtooths, and I was one of the crew bosses up, and we were the last helicopter off of a mountain. And you're gonna laugh because this is old Vietnam vet pilot story, right? And this, I was on the last helicopter off the mountain with a couple people in the back seat, right? And because they were ferrying us off because the fire was coming, so let's get these guys out of here.
Mm.
And so I'm actually sitting in the right seat. put the headset on. He lifts the helicopter off and he looks over at me and goes, "Want to go for a ride?" And of course, I'm dumb enough, right? And I'm like, "Yeah, let's do that," because I knew I had a couple of really green people in the back. I thought, this is going to be awesome. We're going to freak the new people out. And this guy took this helicopter off the top of the mountain, and it's the sawtooths in Idaho. And those of you that don't know what the sawtooths are, they call them that way for a reason, because they are
Look
straight
it
up,
up.
straight down.
Yeah, go look for
Oh
the
my
pictures.
gosh, that gorgeous, gorgeous mountains, but you don't want to hike them. I'm just going to say,
Yeah,
done
big
lots of hiking
vertical,
in the
thick,
sawtooths.
jagged, sharp.
Exactly. And so he goes over the edge of this mountain and then goes right down the tops of the street tops. And he is screaming down. And I swear my feet are up on the dash. Right. You're like, oh my gosh, this is not right. And he gets to the bottom and he's just swerving back and forth and back and forth. And he's following the river and the bottom ravines. And I am hanging on thinking I'm gonna freaking die. Right. This guy, all of a sudden, he takes this aircraft and he banks it so hard. I mean, you're full 90, and he comes around and he goes, "Did you see that bear?" And I'm going to be honest with you, I got the headset on. I go, "When the hell did you have time to look for a bear?" Right?
And he's going looking for a bear. I'm more concerned
Sure
about the
enough.
trees that we almost just hit.
Sure enough, there was a bear, and he flew us over, and we're looking at this bear, and I'm like, "Dude, no."
Yeah, I don't get to do any of that, for the record, just in case.
Yours are
Just
more
the right people.
point A to point B. Yeah.
Yeah, my job in EMS flying, it's my job is to be as boring as possible, straight level, commercial airline type of flying. If I'm having fun, then I'm probably doing something wrong. It's fun, but no cranking and banking. That's yeah, it's just back in the day. There's stories from the back in the day. I mean, you got pilots from Vietnam that have stories of most unbelievable flying because they had to save their lives or
Right.
save somebody else's lives. But safety culture now, in a good way, has advanced enough that we don't do those things. They used to
Yeah,
fly
it's a
by
little
water
different.
towers in the Midwest to figure out what town they were over, or if you punch into the clouds, yeah, that's okay. We'll be fine. Not so much.
Yeah, it's very different now. When I was a little kid, I was just telling someone earlier today that I remember we were in, I think we were in Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and this is forever ago. But my older brother and I being on the tarmac playing pilot and co-pilot in a helicopter. That isn't going to happen today.
And your brother's name is?
Bob.
Is that older? Oh,
Yeah, it's my older brother.
okay. Because I know you have one named Marshall, so.
Yeah, no, that's not him. That's not him.
Okay.
Marshall is several years younger than I am, and it was my older brother and I.
There you go. I do have a bear
But
story
yeah,
for you, though.
you do. What do you got?
So after you drop the patient off and you're heading back home, empty or dead leg, so we're flying along. We're coming back from Salt Lake, and on the backside of the mountains and near Morgan, it's beautiful. And on some of the steep cliffs on that backside there, I see a bear. I think, oh, this is the crew will love to see that. I always want to, help the crew see something cool because they've been busy with the patient, and so I said,
Yeah,
oh, guys, you got
they're
to
so
see this.
focused right here. Yeah.
Right. And we don't have the patient with us anymore. Patient has dropped off, so we're making the 90-minute slog back to Idaho. And so I fly back around, do a 360, and come back around. Guys, you got to see this bear because it's way up on the cliffside, the mountainside, and it's big, huge, dark bear. So I'm thinking, this is great. They're going to love this. And we fly back around, only to see that it's a cow that has made its way all the way up the mountainside. So deflating. It would have been a better bear story if it was.
It would have been if it would have been a real bear, right?
Yeah.
But
Now, anytime we see cows, it's Marshall. Look, bears.
Look at all the bear down there.
Merciless.
That's awesome. Well, that's normal fire service or first responder stuff. It's usually there's not a lot of mercy for each other when it comes to stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, the gallows humor, and you can't be thin-skinned to do that because you see some things and you get
No,
to experience some things, and you're helping people on their worst day, and so there's blood and guts and people having their worst day, and you want to help them. So everybody
right.
copes in their own way, and teasing each other and making jokes. It's a good way to do it.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a those of us that have had individuals like yourself show up to help. It's a good day when you guys show up. Definitely.
That's a fun part of it. I mean, my first question when I started flying EMS was, do I need to renew my EMT basic? Do I need to do anything with medical? And the wise gentleman said, we'd rather you didn't do anything with the patient that's lying next to you. We'd rather you just fly the helicopter.
It just get us where
That's
we need to
that's
go.
that's probably important. That's a good idea. I like that. So, but it is interesting when we land. I can hear what's going on with the crew, and I have no medical certifications. So I carry the bags really well when we're on the ground. But otherwise, my job's
You
to
look
fly them.
good.
Point
You
A,
look the
B.
good the
Yeah,
part,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Rule number one. Rule number one, look cool. Rule number two, don't get lost. Rule number three, if you do get lost, look cool. So
What was it? The night it was in the 1970s, early 80s. It was Saturday Night Live with Billy Crystal, and it was better to look good than to feel good.
yes, sure look marvelous, darling.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's right.
Yes. Yeah. Good times.
So, well, Marshall, you and I met. Um, Oddly enough, we both served church missions in the same mission.
Hmm.
We weren't there at the same time, but we met a little bit later when I was actually trying to sell advertising and stumbled into each other. If I remember correctly, didn't your
Hmm.
family own that? There was a glass place next to a laundromat there down in Provo.
Yeah, my parents had a little
Car
commercial
wash.
corner and car
Yeah,
wash, and I had my auto glass and windshield repair and detailing business there, and there's a laundromat in there, and I think I brushed you off pretty good. I blew you off like we did everybody that came in to sell advertising, but then I don't even remember exactly what it was, but we became fast friends very shortly after that. And I think it
yeah.
was, I credit your personality and not mine. Everyone, Mark, has the personality that if you could go through and pick which personality you could have instead of your own, the one you do have, Mark's is the personality that you pick. I just remember thinking that guy's cool. I may not be, but he's
And
cool. So,
I'm sorry, what was your Venmo? I got to send that money over.
well, yeah, we won't do shameless plugs for ourselves, but we can certainly do them for you,
That's
Mr.
right.
Host. No, we just hit it off, and you're just fun to be around and easy to talk to. And every time we haven't talked for a long time, we just pick it right back up.
Yeah.
Like we haven't missed a beat.
Yeah, one of my favorite things I remember back that we did was when I lived in Phoenix and we came up and met at Lake Powell and we do Lake Powell trips together. And I
Yes,
still remember it was one particular year where the Lake Powell was rising dramatically. I mean, it was inches every day and we had to move camp back because we were on the beach and it kept getting closer. And
that's right.
I think at that point in my life, that had been after that trip, my favorite hamburger in my whole life was Burger King in Page, Arizona. And why was that? Because there was no sand in the burger. After all week long, you're living on the beach and it's blowing and sand is in everything.
Yeah, yeah. Lake Powell's a special place until the wind, which is going to comes, and then it will relocate quite efficiently your houseboat, your tent, your shade tarp, your car, and everything you own is going to be full of sand for pretty much months after that. But
Oh,
it's all part of the
yeah, yeah.
adventure.
Yeah, but I remember driving back and I was so hungry. We stopped into that Burger King in Page, Arizona, and I'm just going to get a burger. And I just sat there and thought, they just don't get better. How come I've not known their burgers were this good before? But of course, now I'm like, no.
Yeah,
So,
love it.
so,
Times.
you're up in Idaho. So how far are you away from like Snake River, Palisades, up that direction? Because one of my favorite places to fish is along that South Fork of the Snake.
Yeah, it's just a couple minutes away. Flew over it last night on a flight. Yeah, it's maybe 15, 20-minute drive and a much shorter flight. We're right here
Next
along
time
we're
I'm
right where the mountains or the Tetons. If you're going east, you get Yellowstone and the Tetons and that beautiful area. And if you go west, you get the lava flows and basically Hell's Half Acre off into until you get to Sun Valley, and then it gets pretty again. So,
Yeah, there are certain areas. Iowa's an amazing, amazing state. There are certain areas that are just amazingly gorgeous, and others you kind of go, ah.
yeah, yeah, we have both. We definitely have. We
it's
have
it's
both.
it's one or the other, right? I mean, but there's I've not been up to Sun Valley, but um, I've spent plenty of time over in your neck of the woods and up over into Yellowstone and Jackson and stuff like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's a beautiful area. We like it.
so tell me, one of the things we chatted about a little bit about was we both have a passion for emergency preparedness and prep stuff,
Mhm.
right? And so,
Absolutely.
um, yeah, it's a fascinating world that you dive into. You can go too far and become really a prepper and on the bunker in your backyard.
It's easy to do. Yeah, it can be subtle. When you realize you have 38 flashlights or whatever your favorite thing. There's the obsessing and hoarding gear or supplies or beans or bullets or bandages or firearms there's no end to it. But it's
We
a
were at
it's a fun
someone's house.
hobby.
We were at some friend's house the other day in Victoria. He goes, I don't know how many flashlights Mark has.
The flashlight fetish is a thing. I can't explain it. You know,
I don't know. It's flashlights, it's pocket knives, it's like, oh, I think I need one of those. That looks really cool. I don't have one like that.
But knowing how many you have, how often do you end up still looking for one? Do you have that happen? Because
No.
I have dozens of knives and etc. And I still end up having to go. So trying to stage them everywhere. I tell my wife it's so I can have one here and there and in the car and in the
Oh,
72
that way
hour
they're all
kit
over.
and so why am I still looking for one on a given day?
Yeah, I have two or three in a specific drawer here in my office. And then I always have one that my favorite one I always haul around with me.
Yeah,
And then I think I've got one in my car. We've got one in the truck. So it's just like, okay, this makes certain. And I always have stuff with fishing gear and outdoor stuff, right? So they are
yeah.
spread around like you're talking about. But I've got my favorite. Mine is it's graphite. So it's got graphite sleeves. And so it's just a super, super light knife that,
Ooh.
yeah.
You're not helping me by telling me about a new one that I don't have, that's because then I'll have
Oh,
to
you want
go.
me to grab it for you and show it to you? Carbon
Yeah.
fiber sleeve, the whole thing. Oh yeah, it's
Yeah,
nice.
send me a picture and where you got it
Exactly.
because I must have one. So
Yeah,
the preparedness
exactly.
side. So you talk about connectedness, but the connectedness between emergency preparedness and emergency management side, I'm staggered. I'm dumbfounded by how often a single little, one action, one phone call, one piece of kit would have made the difference in somebody not having to be transported medically or not losing their life. Just little things, a little bit of preparedness. We joke about it at my house that just because I'm paranoid, nobody's out to get me. It doesn't mean nobody's out to get me. With all these things that we prepare for. But there's something to be said for just thinking ahead a little bit and okay, maybe check the weather. Maybe let somebody know where you're going, when you expect to be back. Just a handful of those common sense things. Take water always, that kind of thing,
Yeah,
and and that can really really make the difference.
yeah. We usually and we have in our vehicles typically if we in the truck we have two 72-hour kits that we always haul in the truck with us with water. And
Hmm.
so, and often with that, there's enough food stuff in there that we could get away with if we had to. I mean, almost a week. if you really had to, it's like, okay, because we love going four-wheeling. We love getting out in some little dirt road back in the middle of the mountains. And next thing you know, where does this road go? We have
Famous
no
last
idea.
words.
Exactly. And so,
We were
we
just
always
going
have,
out for a little day trip, and 6 days later, you're
yeah,
back.
yeah. And we're always joking, oh, we still love our adventures, which we do. We don't know where this road goes. We're going to jump on it and we're just going to drive.
Yeah.
And it's nice because in reality, it's because we know we have gear and equipment with us. So if something were to happen, it's like we're not dead in the water, right? But so we've always got stuff in her car, in her truck, and then in my car, we've got, I've always got something in mine as well, and it's just one of those we just take stuff with us. You
Plus, you've
don't
also
know.
got the knowledge. You get the knowledge of how to improvise when you don't have things. I think that's the area that a lot of people. It's easy to go buy stuff and feel prepared, but getting some education, learning how to use the things, heaven forbid, practicing with it. Role
Oh,
playing
what
with
is
it, going
that?
out on an adventure and shut your phone off. Okay, you have no communications, and now you don't have your car.
Now
Now
what?
what are you going to do? So I think people neglect the knowledge side of things. Of just can you make a fire without a match? Um, do you know how to navigate without your maps on your phone? Because you just might not have it. So
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, and that gets to a different level than a lot of people are comfortable with. Most people are asphalt warriors, right? So they're going to stay on the asphalt and go someplace or whatever, wherever it's paved. Um, and some don't even get onto the dirt gravel roads on the flatlands, right? Unless you're the Midwest, where half the roads are still all
everything's
dirt
flat.
anyways, right?
Yeah, there's no paving all of them.
Yeah, it's yeah, both Marshall's family and not at the same time. We both lived in Iowa, and I swear, 3/4 of the roads in Iowa are not paved. They're just dirt roads out in the farmlands, which is cool. But you get out here into the Rockies, and most everybody's asphalt warriors. They'll go for a drive and they stay on the pavement. But even then, you just don't know. If you go up a canyon and you've lost signal, what are you going to do if all of a sudden you're stuck?
It's surprising how many times we'll get called out somewhere that someone amazingly by some miracle had cell service in the middle of nowhere on the side of a mountain, but you just can't count on it. I tell the hunters and the adventurers that go out, take a Zolio or take a Garmin or
Something.
InReach, something that you can press the oh crap button and you get some help. Otherwise,
Even
it
some of
might
the cell
just be
phones are
you.
starting to come out with some of that satellite stuff.
Right.
Apple's got that satellite option when you're out in the middle of nowhere that it can reach satellites, and even some of the other Androids are starting to do that now too.
Right. That's right.
So, so how long have you been flying now, Marshall?
Oh, there's two answers to that one. And the
Okay.
first one, my favorite answer is I've been flying illegally since I was 8 years old. So, so sorry. So now I'll get the doorbell and the dog going. And you know what? It can just wait. So I've been flying illegally since I was 8 years old with my dad. He taught us to fly in his little plane.
I
And
forgot your dad had a plane. That's right.
yeah, yeah. So we'd be sitting there and he'd teach us a little bit. And okay, you have the controls. And we felt so cool to be flying the plane.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And as we would grow a little older, we'd go on some longer trips, and he'd have us fly a lot of the way because flying a fixed wing is a stable platform. It wants to fly. The helicopter wants to kill you, and as long as you understand that, you're fine. So uh, I remember one time we're flying along, and we thought he would pretend to take a nap to make us feel so cool. We didn't think he'd actually take a nap while we're flying, as
But
kids.
he did.
One time I'm hitting him in the arm and I said, "Hey, they're saying something on the radio about we're in restricted airspace and they're going to escort us out." Or that got his attention. He got right back on the controls. And sure enough, we were in some military airspace, obscure in the middle of nowhere. So I never got my airplane license. Always planned to. That was fun. But I've been flying for 17 years now,
Legally
helicopters
for 17 years
legally.
now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, it goes fast. It's been a good time. It beats working for a living. So I like my office in the sky and permanent first
It's
class
definitely an
seat.
office with a view.
Yeah, yeah. I get the best view. Oh, and it's very different flying. It's very hands-on. You know, the little helicopters like we're in. I'm in a single pilot EMS, and so there's one pilot, there's one nurse, there's one medic, and one patient, and that is the most we fly with. And so it's
Wow,
pretty
that is
hands-on
a
the whole
smaller
time.
aircraft.
Yeah, kind of the Porsche of the skies and the A Star. You can look up what an AS350 or an A Star looks like, and you see those a lot in our neck of the woods because they're powerful and maneuverable, have great tail authority and all that for the things we do. So
The
to go
Porsche
land
of the
above 10,000
skies.
feet, the Porsche of the sky, or the Mazda Miata, depending on who you ask. But I choose Porsche.
Oh
It's
yeah,
definitely
yeah,
not
yeah.
roomy. Once in a while, we get asked if we can take a third rider, like if we're transporting a peds baby or a kid. Mom and dad want to go, and we just don't have the room. Usually don't have the weight for the weight and balance for them, but we just don't have the room. It's just tiny in there. Anyway, so yeah, 17 years of flying helicopters. It's funny to say. It's gone fast.
I didn't think it'd been that long.
It adds up. Flight instructor and then tours and then right into EMS and been doing that for a decade now. So.
Awesome. Awesome. So, well, excuse me, Marshall, I am so excited that we had a chance to visit a little bit. And, I think it's so important. We were talking before we started, um, the way the world has gone in the last few years of just people closing in and less connecting one with another. How important I believe it is that we have those connections, that it's not just, oh, I'm playing a game with somebody online. That's not a real connection. Yeah, it's somebody, but having that real connection face to face and being able to
Mm.
share those experiences. You and I have had quite a lot of shared experiences over the years, whether it's um, Lake Powell having fun, or just barbecues, or whatever, many many years ago when your kids and our kids were little, right? um, but we've been able to do a lot of things over the years and be there to support each other in the good and bad, right? And which happens with relationships. But I think it's crucially important that we have these connections together. And so first of all, I want to tell you thank you. um, you have
Pleasure.
been, while we don't talk as often as we probably should as friends, at least that's what I'm saying. You may feel that you could be going, oh, Mark, this is plenty. um,
No,
while
those
we don't
connections are
talk as,
important.
yeah, we may not talk as often as we want to, and in the past, and those things, but really when you get down to it, it's making certain that we have that connection, that we can have that communication together, and to support each other. And so that's why I say thank you. You have been a good friend of mine for a lot of years, and I can't tell you how grateful I am for that friendship, that
Yeah,
we've been
thanks,
able
brother.
to stay connected.
I'm glad you're doing this because people need that. I mean, with COVID, it was a big wake up call to just it changed things a little bit. But I think people are missing that connectedness because when you're in those tough times or having that rough day or heaven forbid a crisis, that's where that's where the best help comes from. That's what I see when people are rallying around each other. And all you got to do that is just reach out once in a while, be a listener, put the phone down, or get somebody on the phone and actually find out how they're doing because people need that. I don't care who they are. We need each other and we need to work on those friendships and those relationships because it's as the years go by, that's what it's all about. I think feels like it.
Exactly. So, well, thank you, Marshall, for spending some time with us. Um, I will let you go. I know you've got to get out and fly some helicopter today.
Yeah, we got to go to work and and go wait for the phone to ring. Turn jet fuel into noise. I appreciate the time with you, brother. It's my pleasure. My brother from another mother.
So we've always said that. Exactly right. All right, my friend. Have a great day, and thanks for stopping in.
Thanks, Mark. We'll see you.